This is Zink with the Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition in St. Louis, Missouri. If you've joined me before, you know that I just hope to bring a little distraction to your day during the COVID situation. We work primarily with foster and adoptive care families. I don't know about you, but my day has gotten pretty monotonous. It doesn't feel much like or resemble much like that thing we used to call life. So, I don't know about you, I am seriously losing track of everything. What day is it? What hour is it? Morning, afternoon, what season is it? Is it spring? Is it fall? Was what I just ate supposed to be a meal or a snack? Does it even matter anymore? Because for many of us, those things that used to help us track time, they're gone, right? Think about it. Before, we used to have rituals, routines that helped us track our time. Poof, they're gone. Things we'd been looking forward to, suddenly erased off the calendar. Poof, they're gone. Activities for the kids. Even if we weren't looking forward to them, they helped structure our week. Poof, they're gone. Weekly rituals. Poof. Routines. Poof. Little things we could count on with little to no thought. Poof. And you know what's really sad? I thought about, we're not adding anything to the calendar. We're not adding hair appointments. We're not adding school dances. We're not adding work retreats. We're not adding vacations. We're not adding trips out of town to see family or friends. We're not adding girls' nights out, golf outings. We're not adding anything. We have been in a state of subtraction. Poof. Poof. Well, I'm about poofed out. And we were not prepared. Like, we have never been not prepared before. And I am not talking about a government response here. I am talking about human beings as mammals surviving, right? We were just caught unaware. I'm just kind of your little ray of sunshine today, aren't I? Nope. And I'm really not going to be. I'm going to let you know that. So if you tuned in for that, you might want to tune out. However, if you stick with me, I promise you, I think you're going to feel better at the end, because I think some things that have been confusing are going to make some sense. And with that making sense, you're going to have some relief. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't do it. I think there have been enough memes. I think we've been in this enough. There's enough memes, posts, positive affirmations out there telling us all the things we should be doing. We should be grateful for having a job. We should be grateful for being able to work from home. Telling us how we should be grateful to have a home to be stuck in. Grateful for having parents alive that we still worry about every day. Grateful for having hair that still needs to be cut badly. Rachel, if you're listening. Grateful that we still have toilet paper. Yeah. Now, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with gratitude. I'm into it. Seriously, into it. But we also need to be real. We need to balance gratitude with the reality of what's happening. So today we're going to get real and keep it real. And at the end of the day, I think your gratitude will feel more real. It's going to be more balanced. So I want you to complete this sentence. This sucks. It is really hard. And it feels really what? Fill in the blank. It feels really what? I'll give you a moment. Try to use something other than hard. This feels really, I bet nobody out there said wonderful, fabulous, amazing, lonely, confusing, difficult. I hear you people out there with your thesauruses. I didn't say hard. Challenging, uncertain. However, again, before our brief time's over today, I think you're going to feel more connected with yourself. I think those feelings are going to make more sense than just a word. You're going to have more self-awareness and awareness of others around you. And you might even have some sense about if you've been acting just a little bit off. Why that is. It's going to make sense. So if you want to do this with me, stay with me for the next maybe 10 minutes. If you don't, peace out. It's okay. Right here today. It's a beautiful day. Maybe you got somewhere to go. Feelings? Don't hurt. Getcha. We're going to talk about the loss and grief associated with the type of loss that's going on with COVID situation. And this is not the kind of loss and grief that we associate with death, which makes sense to us, as painful and difficult and senseless as it is. That kind of loss and grief makes sense to us. I'm talking about loss and grief that's likely going unrecognized and unnamed, but is having a significant impact on the quality of your life, your mental health, your physical health, and those in your home. And you probably don't even know that it's happening. So at first, we're going to look at some different models of loss and grief that you probably haven't heard of before, because most people are only familiar with the one big one. It's around the big issues of loss of job, relationship, or death. I'm going to describe how these different models fit into what's happening now. I'm going to give it a name. It helps to have a name. Now we're going to talk about how it feels. How does this kind of loss feel? What's typical? Might help you identify, yeah, that's how I've been feeling. Didn't make sense. Didn't know what it was. We're going to talk third about how do those feelings come out as behaviors, right? Because behaviors are expressions of emotion. It's how we show what we're feeling. And last, we're going to talk about what you can do to reduce some of those feelings, to settle down some of those behaviors, to make room for more of the gratitude. Told you we'll get to a better place at the end. So let's talk about some different, part one. What are some different types of losses than the ones that we're used to? So the world as we know it is changed. Something bad has happened. It continues to happen today as we speak. Our primitive brain, talked about a little bit before, the deep part, the reptilian part, it knows something bad's happening. Its job is to alert us to danger. It's its only job, keep us alive. So it's on high alert. It is saying, something's going on, something's going on, something's going on. It's listening to the news, it's taking in information and saying something's going on, something's going on, something's going on. There's danger. Problem is with this, our higher level brain, our higher advanced brain, evolved brain, isn't seeing it, right? You can't see this thing. If there was a hurricane, if there was a flood, if there was a fire, tornadoes, we could see it, it would match. Our information input coming in where we do comparisons, we do logic, the upper part of our brain where we can take in opinions and we can make sense of them would match, but it's not matching. So in our brains, we have this constant tug of war going on. Not helped by the 24-hour news streams that we have access to these days, where no matter what kind of side you believe, your information's changing by the hour, minute, second, Depends on how many times you check in. Pretty much anytime you check in, there's a variation and change going on. So your brain is trying to wrap itself around this all the time. And it can't see any of it. So your lower brain is really confused. Your upper brain doesn't know what's going on and is trying to make sense of it. In the middle of all of this are those things you want. So you're competing against survival, right? You're meant to survive and connect. You want certain things. You have a lot of losses going on in your life and you want them back. Yeah. And your brain is saying, go get them, get back. Go get them, it's dangerous. It's hard. So given that all of this is going on, and we don't know when it's going to end, there's a concept called anticipatory grief. We have no idea. And that's a fact. We don't know. So it would make sense, if you ride along with me here, that not everybody is feeling like doing a new hobby, getting in the best shape of their life, painting the house, picking up 6 new languages, getting super productive, being super chill. We got a lot going on, a lot of distractions. So let's look at where we've been since January-ish. I'm going to use briefly Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief just to frame up real quickly. Her 5, if you're familiar with her, are denial, anger, bargaining, sadness or depression, and acceptance. So in the beginning, let's just use that framework to start. Denial. A lot of us were saying it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to last that long. It's over there. We're here in the US. We got, we're distanced apart. We don't live really close together, and we're young. Well, you're young. Then we went into some anger. You're making me stay home. My kids can't finish school. They're going to miss prom and graduation. What? No. And we got angry. Then we started some bargaining pretty quickly. Okay, fine. 2 weeks? I'll give you 2 weeks. I can do this for 2 weeks. I'll give you 2 weeks. Better be over. 2 weeks. Then it dragged on, and we have something called compassion fatigue happening. A lot of people, you're seeing it, some of the protesters. I was willing to do it for a few weeks for the greater good, but as a country of individualists, I'm tired. I'm out for me now. Yeah, my compassion is fatigued. I'm done. Then we moved into sadness. I'm feeling really lost. I have to figure out how to endure this. For how long? I don't know. When is it going to end? Is this really happening? I look out. I don't see anything. I'm looking at windows. I don't see anything different. Is this all just like a fairy tale? Like, is this happening? And her last stage is acceptance, where you begin to gain some control and take back your power. However, this situation and this type of model for grief is really tricky for this because it's not going to fit. Because we don't get acceptance until it's over. It's pretty open-ended, right? So if we don't look at a different model, we're going to be stuck in sadness for a really, really long time. Now, David Kessler, who's the nation's leading researcher and expert on grief right now, has added a 6th stage. He worked with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, actually. And he went to her family and they agreed to add a 6th stage. He had been working with her and evolved into gratitude or appreciation. And that is the lessons we learn when we've moved through appreciation and we can reflect back. I do think that if we are open to this, we're going to learn so much about ourselves down the road. I've already heard some amazingly funny stories from families. I've heard some beautiful stories. I've developed some insight about myself I think there's some things going to come out of this. Right? I don't think it's all wasted, but it's going to be a while. But again, until we can get some power and control back in our own lives, or a sense of that, then acceptance is going to be a long way away, or we're going to be stuck wallowing in sadness. So that's what I'm hoping to bring you a little bit today. So the 5 stages, as I just said, are really tricky if we use Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief. So I want to talk to you about another model that I think fits better, and that's called ambiguous loss. Ambiguous loss model of grief and loss is used frequently to identify the type of loss that is common in adoption. So in adoption, often the child, who is the adoptee or is the one adopted, and the biological or birth parents, they continue to exist unless something has happened and they're deceased. They continue to exist in the world, but they don't have access to one another. So that type of loss is often defined as loss with uncertainty, loss that's in limbo, loss that's not clear, that doesn't have an end. It's where you have people, experiences, and things that are out of reach, but continue to exist. I was thinking this morning about it. Another example of ambiguous loss would be probably people who are incarcerated. They have great loss, and those who love them, children of people, parents who are incarcerated, they have great loss for those relationships they can't access, but they're available. I mean, they're not available, they can't access them, but they still exist. So when we see this type of loss, I think that's what we're experiencing now. I was driving down the street the other day, just had this eerie feeling that everything is still right there. It looks like a movie set town, right? The stores are there, the businesses are there. Everything you're used to just pop it into, but you can't. And I start thinking, the stores I like to shop at, their stuff is still right inside that door. But you can't get to it. You can't have it, but it's there. Your favorite restaurants, some of them you can get your stuff at the door, but you can't go in. Ambiguous loss. The podcast you listen to on your drive to work. I have a long commute. It's 45 minutes to an hour. I always said I hated it. God, I miss it. Didn't even think about it. I may not like it again when it happens, but it is a loss, right? It is a loss of a routine that I had. So what am I feeling? What are we feeling when we have ambiguous loss? Because again, most of us aren't sitting down and making a checklist. What am I missing? We might be whining and complaining. I am. But what are we actually talking about? So some of the, it'll be unique to all of us, but really common ones are deep feelings of sadness and depression. You might be feeling anxiety or anxiousness that just gets into your bones. Just kind of always there. Crankiness, brittleness. I call it crunchiness. Like walking on Captain Crunch cereal all the time. You're just like, ugh, ugh. Not Legos, because that hurts. That's pain. Captain Crunch cereal under your feet if you're barefoot. Ugh. Ugh. Crunchy. Anger. Restlessness. Can't settle down. Feelings of helplessness or hopelessness. And feelings of having little or no control over anything. So part 2, what am I feeling? Maybe what you're feeling. You might identify with some of those. So part 3, let's move into what would those feelings look like. If you were going to see yourself or other people around you might be saying, lately you've been so, what might you be hearing? Or what might you be saying to yourself, like, I don't know why I'm so, what might it look like? So feelings of sadness might look like low energy, sleeping a lot, or having trouble sleeping, isolating yourself, taking lots of naps, just wanting to spend time by yourself, don't bother me, losing interest in stuff you used to like to do, putting things off. Kids want to play a game and you're like, I'll play later. Pretty soon they know later means, yeah, you're not going to play. Going to bed earlier. Feelings of anxiety could be being really jittery, always on edge. Having a smaller lack of concentration, just can't concentrate. Having a lot of incomplete tasks around, that's a sign. Feelings of anger can result in where you just have outbursts over nothing. Not nothing, but little things that normally you could tolerate, where your window of tolerance is tiny. Little tiny things set you off. Stop talking. Quit chewing so loud. Do you have to breathe like that? Like little things just set you off. People around you might be like, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Feelings of helplessness and hopelessness might be resulting in clinginess, whininess, immobility, like you just can't move. You just shut down. And feelings of having little or no control, you might be seeing yourself or someone you care about having just no opinion about anything. Just giving up. Hey, I'm going to run to the store. I thought I'd get some ice cream. What flavor do you want? I don't care. Thought we'd order pizza tonight. What do you think? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Want to go for a walk? Take the dogs? I don't know. Not no, not just like no would be more depression, but just like I don't know. Don't care. Yeah, no, I don't care. Can't make decisions. That would be somebody who just doesn't feel like anything they do makes a difference. They don't have control over anything. So those would be behavioral things you might be seeing in yourself or somebody else. It could be related to all of this. So if this is happening, why aren't we recognizing it, right? Why aren't we picking up on it? Because we're not recognizing it. We're not naming it as grief and loss. We're not used to doing that. So there's another concept that's going to help. Why don't we recognize this as grief? Because in our country, we don't really recognize anything other than death as worthy of grief or the ending of a relationship. We don't recognize these other things. So there's another concept. Looks like I'm going to drink a flower. Not. Another concept is called disenfranchised grief. And that's the kind of grief that's we use it in adoption as well, where it's not socially recognized. There aren't rituals. There aren't any Hallmark cards. It's a grief we don't usually talk about. Disenfranchised grief might be grief when you lose a job. You don't really want to get fired. Might be when you place a child for adoption. We don't usually have a Hallmark card for sorry, your rights were terminated. It's where you feel really alone. You usually bury your feelings. You don't ask for support. People don't know how to support you. So you end up being really socially isolated, and that ends up with lots of feelings of shame. So if you're having some of these feelings and you don't know where they're coming from, and people are like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, I don't know. What is wrong with me? Something. And we're not talking about mental health a lot in our country. So you just kind of keep this, right? So disenfranchised grief kind of fits with that. Like, we don't know what to do with it. So we just bury it. We eat it. We figure it's just us. And we'll just suck it up and get through it. So when we don't talk about it, we don't ask about it, we don't mention it to anybody, we end up pretty isolated and feeling shamed. And that, guess what? Doesn't make it better. Makes it worse generally. So we know yet though that any kind of grief, any kind of loss is natural and normal. It is our brain's way of adjusting and finding balance to the loss of anything that was important to us. Anything. I remember when I quit smoking cigarettes. Don't let the kids hear. It's a long time ago. They're really, really bad and it's really hard to quit. But I remember crying. It was so hard. I really missed them. It was a huge loss. So Grief is those conflicting feelings. Let's make it real basic. It's the conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change of a familiar pattern of behavior. That's a loss. It's grief. It's reaching for something that was always been there and now it's not there. It's no longer within reach. That's a loss. You know, when you move and your old friends aren't just across the street, or your parents aren't there, or you go into a certain room and no longer are your things where they were. That's sad. You know, you stop and you have a feeling. And doesn't that sum up what's been happening to us? Yet, how many of you had a conversation about this with anybody? And how many of you have received messages from the media or the world saying, this is really hard, this is okay? Most of us are here and how lucky are we? We should just be using this time. Maybe not. I'm tired of shoulds. Just am. So what can we do to feel better? Let's wrap this up. What can we do to feel better? Well, first thing is we can name it, which we're doing. We can have permission to feel it because it's real. It's there. We can know when it shows up. We can say, there it is. So let's get some relief. First thing, recognizing it and understanding it is often halfway there, if not a little bit more of the way, like, oh, okay, oh, I'm not crazy. It makes sense. It makes sense. Now when I have the feeling, I can just let it ride. I can let it come, be present, notice it, accept it, and be like, I guess I am a human. Who knew? Those things were important to me and I do miss them, and gosh, I'm going to look forward to getting them again. Don't over-intellectualize this, please. Emotions are not intellectualizable. That's probably not a word. Grief is emotional. It's not intellectual. Don't try to rationalize it like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. People have it worse. Or if I just, use some rational brain around it, stop. It sucks. Remember your word? I feel what? Yeah, just feel it. Don't rationalize it. You'll end up feeling it again later. As soon as you can feel it and be with it, it'll pass. But if you keep pushing it off, guess what? It keeps knocking. It will not be overthought. Nope. Avoid temporary coping mechanisms and methods. I think it's funny because I laugh, but I think it's scary when people are saying, when we return to work, are we still going to be able to wear our pajamas and drink by 9 a.m.? If that's really, I'm hoping it's all really jokes. But, temporary relief is really powerful. A lot of the things that can be used because they hit our neurological circuits, our pleasure circuits really strong and hard, and they work. But they have some pretty strong kickbacks. So if you find yourself there, reach out to your EAP if you have one. Reach out to some mental health providers. They're all doing TheraHealth. You just stay in your home, flip on your computer. You only have to get dressed from here up. It's not a bad gig. Call a crisis line. Do you know National Lifeline? Less than half of the calls are about suicide. I worked there. I was Maggie. True story. They're open 24 hours a day. They don't keep your name. Let them know how you're feeling. Let them know what you're struggling with. They're going to be really good experts at this. They can talk you through it. They're good. Give a lifeline a call. Give your local crisis line a call. They're waiting. They know where you are. Accept it for what it is, because it is. You can't change it. It is what it is. Be one with it. Please accept you don't have to fix anything. You don't, because you really can't. I don't have the tools. I can fix me to a certain extent. I can model for my kids and those in my home. I can find healthy coping things. I can find some mindfulness activities. I can find if I'm more on the outwardly expressing pain through anger, aggression, I maybe am going to do some more walking, exercise kind of things to lower my stress hormones. If I'm more on the depressive symptoms, I might do more kind of mindfulness things, coloring, artsy, craftsy kind of things. There are so many amazing things online. Use this time to model. If you've got kids, model for them how to take care of mental health issues. We talk about it all the time. Mental health is normal. Mental health should be part of our everyday routine. How many of us are showing our kids every day so that when they get out on their own in the real world and they have a real mental health struggle, that they know to be like, no big deal. I know how to take care of it. I got this. Yeah, I know how to take care of it. I don't have stigma around it. Great opportunity around a family issue to start working on mental health when there isn't huge stigma attached to this. And accept that you don't have to be okay all the time, because you don't. It's okay not to be okay, and you're going to be different when it's over. But hey, I don't know that the old me was the best me. Just pretty good. I'm getting old. It's getting better. But the new me, yeah, I can get better. So I will see you next week. I think what I'm going to do next week is spend some time looking at our routines and our schedules. I think mine are getting a little old, boring, and knowing how important schedules and routines are for kids who have had a lot of early trauma. So I'm going to look at some ways to freshen up your routines and your schedules, reminding us about the importance for kids with trauma, why they're there, why they're so important. And if you know anything about me at all, you're going to know it's going to involve doing less and not more. So until then, I'm Ann Zink with the Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition in St. Louis, Missouri. Wishing you well, wishing you a good week, and get rid of those shoulds. Figure out what you're feeling, let it be, and talk to somebody in your house, out of your house, on a crisis line. Figure it out. It's normal. Should be happening. Oh, should. Peace. Bye-bye.